Before we begin, I want you to do something. For the next few minutes, stop trying to impress anyone. Stop trying to meet expectations. Stop trying to be who everyone else wants you to be. And just listen. The calm scenes you're watching right now are not the message. They're simply there to slow your mind down. Because today's conversation isn't about success. It's not about money. And it's not about productivity. It's about a two-letter word that has the power to completely change your life. No. Such a small word. Yet for many people, it's one of the hardest words they'll ever say. Because somewhere along the way, we were taught that being kind means always saying yes. Yes to extra work. Yes to other people's demands. Yes to invitations we don't want. Yes to responsibilities that were never ours. Yes to expectations we never agreed to. And little by little, we start giving away pieces of our lives. Until one day we look around and realize something uncomfortable. We're exhausted. We're overwhelmed. And we're living a life that feels more like a reaction to everyone else's needs than a reflection of our own. The truth is, every time you say yes to something unnecessary, you're saying no to something important. No to your time. No to your energy. No to your goals. No to your peace of mind. And the most dangerous part? Most people don't even realize they're doing it. They spend years trying to be liked, trying to avoid disappointment, trying to keep everyone happy, only to discover that they've neglected the one person they were responsible for all along, themselves. So today we're going to talk about a skill that can protect your time, your energy, your confidence, and your future. A skill that successful people understand, but most people never learn. The art of saying no, and by the end of this video you may realize that every meaningful yes in your life begins with a courageous no. Let's begin. Most people don't have a time management problem. They have a boundary problem. They say they don't have enough time. Yet somehow they always find time for things they never wanted to do in the first place. Extra obligations, unnecessary commitments, requests they wanted to decline, favors they didn't have the energy for, and conversations they didn't want to have. Not because they lacked time. Because they lacked boundaries. Because every time they wanted to say no, they said yes instead. At first, it seems harmless. After all, what's wrong with helping people? What's wrong with being kind? What's wrong with being available? Nothing. Until your kindness starts costing you your peace. Until your availability starts costing you your goals. Until your desire to avoid disappointing others starts disappointing yourself. That's where the problem begins. Because many people spend years believing that saying yes makes them a good person. But here's a question worth thinking about. If saying yes to everyone else means constantly betraying yourself, is that really kindness? Or is it self-neglect? Think about how often people say yes when they really mean no. Someone asks them for a favor. They don't want to do it, but they agree anyway. Someone invites them somewhere. They're exhausted, but they go anyway. Someone places another responsibility on their shoulders. They're already overwhelmed, but they accept it anyway. Why? Because they don't want to seem rude. They don't want to create conflict. They don't want to disappoint anyone. And beneath all of that is one powerful fear. The fear of not being liked. The fear of being judged. The fear of letting people down. So instead of protecting their own needs, they sacrifice them. Again, and again, and again. Until one day they wake up feeling exhausted. Not because life is hard, but because they've spent years carrying things that were never theirs to carry. The truth is, every yes comes with a cost. Every commitment requires time. Every obligation requires energy. Every responsibility occupies mental space. And here's what many people forget. Time is limited. Energy is limited. Attention is limited. Which means every time you say yes to one thing, you're automatically saying no to something else. The question is, what are you sacrificing? Maybe you're sacrificing your health. Maybe you're sacrificing your goals. Maybe you're sacrificing your peace of mind. Maybe you're sacrificing time with the people who matter most. Because every unnecessary yes steals something valuable. And the older you get, the more expensive those yeses become. Imagine your life as a bank account. Every day, you're given a limited amount of time and energy. Now imagine constantly handing pieces of that account to everyone who asks. Sooner or later, you'll have nothing left for yourself. And that's exactly what happens to many people. They become emotionally exhausted, mentally drained, physically tired, not because they're weak, because they're overextended. They've spent so much time managing other people's priorities that they've forgotten their own. And here's the irony. Many of the people they're trying so hard not to disappoint don't even realize the sacrifice being made. Because people naturally accept what you're willing to give. If you're always available, people will expect availability. If you're always saying yes, people will expect agreement. If you never set boundaries, people will assume there aren't any. Not because they're bad people, because that's human nature. Which means protecting your time isn't selfish. It's necessary. Protecting your energy isn't rude, it's responsible. Protecting your peace isn't weakness, it's wisdom. Yet many people struggle with this because they've confused boundaries with rejection. They think saying no means they don't care. But that's not true. You can care about someone and still say no. You can love someone and still say no. You can respect someone and still say no. In fact, the healthiest relationships often depend on honest boundaries. Because relationships built entirely on people-pleasing eventually create resentment. And resentment quietly destroys what honesty could have protected. Think about someone who constantly agrees to things they don't want. Over time, frustration builds, stress builds, bitterness builds. Eventually, they begin blaming the very people they chose not to be honest with. All because they were afraid to say one simple word. No. And that's why learning to say no isn't about becoming selfish. It's about becoming honest. Honest about your limits, honest about your priorities, honest about what truly matters. Because every meaningful life requires sacrifice. The question isn't whether you'll sacrifice something, the question is what you'll sacrifice. Your goals, or other people's expectations, your peace, or other people's approval, your future, or your fear of disappointing someone. And that's where the real challenge begins. Because most people know they should set boundaries. They know they should protect their time. They know they should say no more often. Yet they still struggle to do it. Why? Because the problem isn't practical, it's psychological. And until you understand the deeper reason people fear saying no, you'll continue giving away pieces of your life without even realizing it. Because the problem isn't practical, it's psychological. Most people don't struggle to say no because they don't know how. They struggle because they're afraid of what might happen if they do. They're afraid someone might be disappointed. They're afraid someone might get upset. They're afraid of conflict. They're afraid of rejection. And perhaps most of all, they're afraid of not being liked. Which is why so many people spend their lives chasing approval. Approval from family. Approval from friends. Approval from colleagues. Approval from strangers. Approval from people whose opinions shouldn't even matter. And without realizing it, they slowly hand control of their lives to everyone else. Think about that for a moment. Imagine allowing thousands of people to vote on how you should spend your time, how you should think, how you should behave, how you should live. It sounds absurd, yet many people do exactly that every day, not through a ballot box, but through their fear of disapproval. Because every decision becomes filtered through one question: what will people think? And that's a dangerous way to live. Because no matter what you do, someone will always disagree. Someone will always judge. Someone will always be disappointed. You could spend your entire life trying to please everyone and still fail. So why sacrifice your peace for a goal that's impossible to achieve? The truth is, people-pleasing is often misunderstood. Many people think it's kindness, but often it's fear wearing a disguise. Fear of rejection, fear of criticism, fear of abandonment, fear of not being enough. And that fear usually starts much earlier than people realize. For some, it began in childhood. Maybe they learned that being agreeable earned praise. Maybe they learned that keeping everyone happy avoided conflict. Maybe they learned that their value came from being useful to others. So they developed a habit, a survival strategy, a belief that said, if people are happy with me, I'll be safe. And while that belief may have protected them once, it eventually becomes a prison. Because now their self-worth depends on external approval. Now every disagreement feels threatening, every criticism feels personal, every disappointed reaction feels unbearable. And that's why saying no feels so difficult. Not because the request is important, because approval has become important. But here's something powerful to understand. The moment your self-worth depends on other people's approval, you stop living freely. You become controlled by reactions, controlled by expectations, controlled by opinions. And that's not freedom. That's emotional dependence. Imagine a puppet controlled by invisible strings. Every compliment lifts them up. Every criticism pulls them down. Every opinion changes their direction. Their life isn't guided by values. It's guided by reactions. Unfortunately, many people live exactly this way. Their mood depends on approval. Their confidence depends on validation. Their decisions depend on acceptance. And over time, they lose touch with themselves. Because when you're constantly focused on what everyone else wants, you stop asking what you want. You stop asking what matters to you. You stop asking what kind of life you're trying to build, and that's where resentment begins. Not all at once, slowly, quietly, year after year. Because every time you betray your own needs to satisfy someone else's expectations, a small part of you notices, a small part of you remembers, a small part of you becomes frustrated, and eventually that frustration turns into exhaustion. You feel drained. Not because you're doing too much, because you're doing too much of what doesn't matter. You're spending energy on obligations instead of priorities, expectations instead of purpose, approval instead of authenticity. And that's why some people reach a point where they suddenly feel trapped. Trapped by commitments they never wanted. Trapped by expectations they never agreed to. Trapped by a version of themselves they've spent years performing. The scary part? Many don't even realize how it happened. It happened one yes at a time. One compromise at a time. One act of self-neglect at a time. Until eventually they wake up and realize they've built a life around avoiding disappointment rather than pursuing fulfillment. And that's no way to live. Because the purpose of your life isn't to become everyone's favorite person. The purpose of your life is to become the best version of yourself, and those are very different goals. One requires constant approval. The other requires courage. One keeps you small. The other helps you grow. One asks, what do they want from me? The other asks, what do I need to become? And the moment you begin asking that second question, everything starts to change. But knowing this isn't enough, because understanding the problem is only the beginning. The real challenge comes when you finally decide to change, when you start setting boundaries, when you start protecting your time, when you start saying no. Because that's the moment many people experience something unexpected. Guilt. And in the final part of this video, we're going to talk about why guilt appears, why it doesn't mean you're doing something wrong, and how learning to say no can completely transform your confidence, relationships, and future. Because that's the moment many people experience something unexpected. Guilt. The moment they start protecting their time. The moment they start setting boundaries. The moment they start saying no. A voice appears inside their head. A voice that says, you're being selfish. You're letting people down. You should do more. You should help. You should say yes. And for many people, that guilt is powerful enough to send them right back to their old habits. Back to overcommitting, back to people-pleasing, back to sacrificing themselves for everyone else. But here's what you need to understand. Guilt does not automatically mean you're doing something wrong. Some guilt means you're unfamiliar. Think about it. If you've years putting everyone else's needs before your own, then prioritizing yourself, not because it's wrong, because it's new. Imagine someone who has spent their entire life carrying heavy bags on their shoulders. Eventually, the weight starts to feel normal. Now imagine they finally put those bags down. At first, they don't feel freedom. They feel discomfort, because their body has adapted to the weight. The same thing happens emotionally. When you've spent years carrying other people's expectations, freedom feels unfamiliar, and unfamiliar often feels uncomfortable. But discomfort is not a sign to stop. It's often a sign that you're growing, because boundaries are not walls, they're filters. They help you decide what deserves access to your time, energy, and attention. And the truth is, not everything deserves access. Not every request deserves a yes. Not every opportunity deserves your time. Not every opinion deserves your attention. And not every person deserves unlimited access to your life. The people who struggle most with this often believe that saying no damages relationships. But healthy relationships don't break because of boundaries. They become stronger because of them. Because honest boundaries create honest relationships. Think about the people you respect most. The people who seem calm, confident, grounded, focused. Notice something. They don't say yes to everything. They know their priorities. They protect their time. They respect their energy. And because they respect themselves, other people often respect them too. That's one of the greatest paradoxes of life. The more you respect your own boundaries, the more others learn to respect them as well. But when you constantly ignore your own limits, you teach others to ignore them too. That's why learning to say no isn't just a productivity skill. It's a self-respect skill. Every time you say no to something that doesn't align with your values, you're saying yes to yourself. Yes to your goals, yes to your peace, yes to your future, yes to the life you're trying to build. And that's where everything changes. Because eventually you realize something. Your life is made up of choices, and every yes is a choice. Every no is a choice. The person you become is simply the result of those choices repeated over time. If you keep choosing other people's expectations over your own priorities, you'll build a life that belongs to everyone except you. But if you start choosing intentionally, if you start protecting your attention, your energy, your time, then little by little, you begin building a life that actually feels like yours. Not perfect, not easy, but authentic. And authenticity is far more valuable than approval, because approval comes and goes. People change their opinions, trends change, expectations change, but self-respect remains. And the beautiful thing about self-respect is that it grows every time you honor your own values, every time you keep a promise to yourself, every time you protect your peace, every time you choose courage over approval, every time you say no when no is the honest answer. That's how confidence is built. Not through motivation, not through positive thinking, through self-trust. And self-trust grows whenever your actions align with your values. So before this video ends, I want you to think about one thing. What is something you've been saying yes to that you should have said no to? Maybe it's an obligation, maybe it's a habit, maybe it's a relationship, maybe it's an expectation you've been carrying for years. Whatever it is, be honest with yourself, because every meaningful change begins with honesty. And perhaps the most powerful word you'll say this year won't be yes, it will be no. No to distractions, no to guilt, no to unnecessary obligations, no to living a life controlled by other people's expectations, and yes to yourself. Yes to your growth, yes to your goals, yes to your future. Thank you for listening, and remember, every time you say yes to something, you're spending a piece of your life. Spend it wisely. Until next time, stay focused. Thumbnail text ideas. Just say no.